I would really want to thank you all for considering Masoom. To think about choosing our cause is a big thing for us, and we are
Yes,
really
ma'am.
excited about it. So, yeah, it's especially during such challenging times for somebody
Right.
to think about an organization, think about night schools particularly. It
Yes,
is,
ma'am.
it is a blessing for us. So, thank you very much. Thank you to your
Thank you
entire.
so
COVID is just specifically dealing with COVID-19. So it was during the lockdown that we kind of thought about all of this and put everything together. Uh, so COVID right now is trying to help all the businesses. This is a new company that we've come up with. But like I said, that we have a technology company which has been in the scene for the past 10 years. So this is like a new vertical to it. Thank you so much, all of y'all, for joining us here to this webinar of a new learning, understanding the approach to the normal during the COVID-19 outbreak. I would really like to give you a very warm welcome, Mr. Ankush Jagdale, Ms. Nikita Ketkar, and Mr. Vishwajit Pawar. You guys have really been doing some awesome work in the past so many years that you have dedicated your life towards social service and towards getting the right education and the right values to people so that people don't fall behind in any way of life. So I would really I'm thankful and grateful that I have people like you guys who are still with us and believe in humanity. COVID-19, however, none of us was ready for this, right? It just came out of nowhere and it has just changed the very way that we function. Ma'am, I just have some quick questions for you. So, the first question that I'm going to be asking you is I need you to tell me a little more about Masoom. When was it established? What is the focus of your work? What is your current assessment of digital learning technology for the organization? And where do you see the need for urgent transformation given the environment?
Masoom was an outcome of a research that I did in 2006-7 on night schools.
Okay.
And with night schools, it has been a very interesting journey for me, personal journey. I was in the NCC Directorate. I was in the, after passing UPSC, I was in the Defense Services. And while I was on deputation here in Mumbai, I came across these night schools because I was quite keen to know about the education space, and I started volunteering, and that's when I came across night schools in 2000. And that was my first kind of interaction with the night school students. I realized that night schools basically are meant for working students, students who work as courier boys, canteen boys, girls work as domestic help, in class 4 employees. In spite of our work, all these students find time to come in the night to study. This is what moved me. These students come from Monday to Saturday. They're not informal, they're formal schools. And it just struck me. It struck me at that point of time when I saw the schools. I just realized that these students are there because they want to come. They're self-motivated. They want to do something with their lives. They want to improve their, current economic position that they're on, and so they're there. And that is what something moved me, and I just realized that there was so much to do for these night school students because no organization was working for them at that point of time. I also found out from a couple of stakeholders that these schools are 150 years, more than 150 years old. Initially started by Jyotiba Phule in 1850s in Pune to take care of adult education, and then because the social reform movement was very, very strong in Maharashtra, they happened to spring up, and a lot of them in Mumbai because of the migration that was happening to take care of the adults who were coming to Mumbai and their children's education. So that is what I realized that these night schools were doing a big social development work, and they were contributing a lot to the welfare of the underprivileged students. And that is what moved me, and I was anyway. I was not happy with my bureaucratic job. I had already made up my mind because I was very keen to work on the field, and that's when I took a call. It was just a calling, and I think it was a matter of a few months that I had to. It took some time for me to decide because UPSC job, you generally don't tend to give up easily. There is a lot of internal turmoil that you go through, pressures from your parents and all of that. But then finally I took a call. I gave up the service. I resigned. Um, and I got into setting up the organization in 2008 formally. But the research was done in 2006-7, and it was again an informal research to find more about what they actually needed, what these night schools needed, and that's when I came to know that night schools exist only in Maharashtra. We are very, very fortunate to have night schools in Maharashtra because of the social reform movements that we've had a very strong social reform movement, and then that's it. Like, I started in 2008 and then never looked back. I never regretted once for having left the service or having resigned and come. It was just I had no clue what would work, what would not work. It was an informal research. We had no penny with us, not a single penny to start anything, not even take up an office. But suddenly things fell in place. First, we got support from Unlimited India. They help incubate social entrepreneurs. Then we got help from Edelgift Foundation, and then from Global Fund for Children, and then it just went on. And it's as if, when things are this time to happen, everything around the universe works towards it. And now we started with 2 schools. We are in 85 schools right now, which includes schools in Nagpur, Nagar, and Pune. Also, having said that, we have maximum number of schools in Mumbai, which is about 72 of them. We work with Marathi medium, Hindi medium, Urdu medium, English medium, Kannada medium, and maximum being the Marathi medium schools.
Right.
So that's the journey of Masoom. What we do is basically provide resources that are missing in the schools. They are state-aided schools.
Right.
They are funded by the government, funded as in the salaries of the teachers is coming from the government, but they are private aided schools, as in they have their own private trusts that run them. So the gap which is there is that these trustees who have been traditionally teachers, businessmen, and they've been so because these schools are set up 100 years back, 60 years back, it's just come down to them, and they're carrying it as a philanthropy or an act of philanthropy for them. So they're finding it very difficult to run the non-salary requirements of the school, which is could be, and that is where we come in. We provide nutrition, we give them evening meals, we give them notebooks, textbooks. We've got a lab which is created on wheels because they don't have access to normal science labs. We do capacity building. We do a lot of advocacy with the government, and that's the model. So very quickly, I just want to sum up that we also have a career cell that takes care of skilling. We provide short-term skilling and long-term skilling, and also aim towards giving them jobs. So we do employability and employment. We have been able to place many students, and we've taken the pay packet from 6,000-7,000 to twice as much as as it is. So it would be 25,000-26,000 is an average, which they end up earning after they finished all the skilling courses and after a few years of having work. We also have 2 buses that provide technology support to our students. They are basically there is an internet connection. So it's like a classroom on wheels, but it is equipped with internet connection. We give courses like graphic designing, web designing, IT related. So basically computer education, otherwise they don't have access to computers at all. So we have 2 buses, and we are just expanding our model to other places such as Gujarat. We've just signed a MOU last year. We signed an MOU with the Gujarat government. So we'll be starting some evening learning centers like night schools, not really night schools, but something similar for the 10th standard student. I'll talk more. There are more questions, but that's the summary of what we do.
Ma'am, like, one thing that I can gauge out of it is that all of this can only come out of a calling,
Yes.
If someone is forcefully put in a situation and asked to do something like that, I don't think it can ever work out unless you really have the zeal and the vigor to do what you have to, and what you have to achieve. So I'm really very, very happy and grateful to have you as one of our speakers today. And like, Masoom is definitely, it is in the right hands, I feel.
Thank you, Anurag. I don't know whether that is, but sometimes you have to switch off your intellectual capabilities and move on to other faculties that lie within you, which is
Right.
of your your instincts,
Right.
your emotions, and sometimes that works, and it just
Right.
there are many times, challenging times, when I've asked myself, when during challenging times I've relied more on instincts than on the intellectual, and the instincts have never failed me.
That's definitely true. That's definitely true.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that insight. That was really very, very deep, and it was very thoughtful of you to put something together to that level that it has gone to today. So, thank you so much, ma'am. I would like to move to our next question, and I would like to ask the next question to Mr. Ankush Jagdale, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sir, so I have a few questions. The COVID-19 has hit the education system like it's like a tsunami. It's like a natural calamity that has hit us, and we never had any norms against something like this. You know, faculty members, the administrators, and the students were just everything was just scattered, right? Suddenly, for 4 months, all the schools are shut, everything is shut, and like education is not going in the right way. So what my question to you is, have you had any volunteers in this? Like, did you get any volunteers coming up to you saying that, this is something that is happening? So can I be a part of this, or can I be helpful, or has there been any help that has come to you on its own in this pandemic situation?
I think our CEO Nikita ma'am will answer this question well, I think, instead of me actually. As we decided, that is the second question, and she will answer the question.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, see, right from the beginning, fortunately for Masoom, besides the funders, the volunteers, the support from the civil society has been tremendous.
Right.
Fortunately, after the lockdown, also, we've seen. I know it is a depressing, moment for all of us, and yes, there are moments when it is challenging moments for all the organization. Fortunately for us, the volunteers have been really. We've got a lot of support from the civil society, not just the normal volunteers who want to come and help, but also the donors who give financial support want to also send in their own volunteers, and that has been happening since 2008. And we've been very fortunate. The entire team has seen plethora of volunteers coming from the existing donors during sports events, when we take them out for field visits. They do so they personally mentor them. They've been teaching our students and so on. And so similarly, during lockdown also, we had some of our donors who said that we will we will definitely support you. We in spite of all the problems that we are also facing, we will come. And that support just didn't. It was not restricted to finances. They said, "Ki my asked art people are anyway sitting at home. They have lots of time to engage them." And fortunately, yes, JP Morgan, Deutsche, both the companies have come on board now. Their volunteers have been trained. Initially, we've been involving them in surveys that we want to do in the community. Post-COVID, where the community has been hit very badly, and then they've already gone through some sessions where they are planning to take some classes for our students, but they will be doing that. Besides that, we launched a smartphone campaign. We've launched very recently. We launched because most of our students don't have access to smartphones, and we've started online education of the 10th grade students. We launched a campaign to basically bring in used smartphones to people who don't want to use second-hand smartphones. And there we saw amazing response, from the media. They covered our stories. The volunteers who came in initially, who were with us, and said that we will, collect some. We ourselves will give some. So not much has been collected. We just managed to collect 20, but we've collected around 40,000 in the process, because we could buy not at a wholesale rate or whatever.
Right.
So that is the kind of response. And fortunately for our night school students, it's been amazing because we have now almost 300 students, attending the online classes, 10th grade students. So they really not miss much of the academic year. We've
Yeah.
started before. We started in April only, and we plan to take this. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that definitely does answer the question. And you're trying to say that even though all of whatever challenges have been faced, like you've got like good volunteer support and everything has been like pretty, like people have been very supportive to the organization, and they have been, they've given you everything that you asked them for, like for example phones and volunteers and whatever was there. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the financial, see, we had to reduce the budgets. There are challenges there, but then that everybody is going through. I mean,
Right. Yeah.
Beyond that, I think and everybody has been hit. It's not just Masoom or
That's
not
right. That's
us.
right.
Everybody, even the corporates have been hit. To
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
on that and say, okay, our people are there, and they will be happy to volunteer, and coming and volunteering continuously. It takes a lot of it takes a lot of will and determination, especially during these challenging times.
Yeah. When there are no monetary returns
Yes,
that you can see.
yes.
Okay. Moving on. I would like to ask this question to Mr. Vishwajit Pawar. What technologies have been put in place by the government authorities to support distance learning? Is the government funding or aiding any technologies that is with respect to distance learning? I read about your program of the Tech on Wheels. That's the bus ma'am was talking about, right? You have two buses where there are labs set up and there could be lectures and stuff inside the bus. So I believe this is something that you have been actively a part of. So can you just give us a little more insight on that?
Okay, so yes, true. There are two things. I'll first go answer with the available technologies for students to distance learning, and then I'll switch to Tech on Wheels.
Okay.
As soon as the lockdown was initiated on March 21st, government came up with a lot of options for the students who could use free digital learning platforms, and these were the platforms which were mostly controlled by government itself. So when we see private schools are embracing a lot on Google Classrooms and Zoom, etc.
Okay.
But with the state schools, they're using a mix of digital platforms, which are television, radio, SMS, IVRs, etc.
Okay.
And while the government was responding, in fact, the central government has worked for some years on several initiatives to strengthen the teaching and learning systems. And these
Right.
platforms were made available and accessible to the students across the country.
Okay.
So, name of few of such platforms is the Diksha portal. Now, so
Okay.
this portal is an e-learning content for students, teachers, and parents, which is aligned with the curriculum, which has video lessons, worksheets, textbooks, and assignments.
Right.
And those also have QR codes, so one can just QR the code on the book or on the given tag, and
Yeah.
you can access the content online.
Okay.
Now, and they have CBSE and NCRT syllabus as well.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's pretty interesting. Like this is something that is, I don't think these guidelines were already there right before the pandemic. I don't think any of this existed before that.
So Diksha was being promoted by state government in the past like few months before even the lockdown was there, and
Yeah.
we ourselves, Masoom was preaching a lot about it for our night schools, so
Right.
that our students would get more access to education when they are not in the school.
Right.
Because anyways, our students only come for 3 hours, but they follow the same curriculum of the state board as the day school students.
Right.
But the platforms like another platforms like ePathshala and Swayam and Swayam Prabha and Pradhan Mantri eVidya initiative for digital education. I
Yeah.
guess these were few unknown platforms which weren't being disclosed until the lockdown was initiated.
Okay.
Although there are There were people who were having their own Facebook groups. They were having their own WhatsApp channels of
Right.
students and parents and teachers where they were exchanging notes. Many of our teachers, even the night school teachers, have started their own YouTube channels, and they were sharing the links to the students as part of their own initiatives towards digital education.
Right.
So I think, yeah, there are pretty good options for the students. However, the reach would always be a question because of the digital divide, or access to internet for the students. So yeah.
Right. Okay. That's like, I wasn't aware that there are already so many platforms that people are using for distance education. So on the basis of this, Mr. Jagdale sir, you've been the headmaster of Utkarsh Night School for 10 years, and you have seen education. You have seen education in that state. You have seen education in the real grassroots level. So what do you think? How different will this education that has shifted to online medium be from what it was originally? How do you think the education system is changing, and what do you think is the major difference? Do you think this education is efficient enough for a student to get everything that he can actually go in a school and learn?
One thing I think COVID-19 has given a very good lesson to us.
Right.
Actually, only offline education, that is teaching learning method, is not enough for us. Actually, it should be added online learning. Online teaching will be the integral part of our daily teaching learning process.
Okay.
As far as the night schools are concerned, it is very difficult for the night schools. I think I was there for 35 years in night schools. First thing, my night schools in Maharashtra are the subtenants of municipal corporation school buildings or private school buildings.
Right.
So they do not have their own infrastructure as well as the digital infrastructure.
Right.
And one more thing, that is before COVID-19 or after COVID-19, the teaching staff in the night schools is not trained on the digital platform.
Right.
So that nowadays it is very difficult to find the way how to reach to the students to distance education. Second thing, around 60 to 70% population of the night schools are working in the daytime.
Right.
And during lockdown situation, they are migrated to their hometown. So again, it is very difficult to connect them. As
Right.
far as Masum is concerned, I think around 1400, that is 1400 students promoted to 10th standard to 9th standard. And
Right.
actually, Masum tried their level best, but Masum reached around 1000 students, and Masum started its own online teaching classes and covering around 400 students at present. And now Masum is hoping to get around 800 to 1000 students. But again, it is very difficult. Actually, our night school students do not have the smartphones. There is no network.
Correct.
Particularly in the rural areas, it is very difficult to reach them.
Yeah.
And even state government has said the teachers they should teach the students through WhatsApp. Again, the same problem is there.
Right.
Actually, we are trying our level best. I think COVID-19 will give very good lessons in future. Online learning should be connected with the day-to-day learning.
Correct. Right. That's the best way to go forward, actually.
And one more thing, I think Bangalore-based NGO, that is organization, has made online syllabus for NIOS.
Okay.
And they also make the syllabus for children with physically and visually impaired students. So again, if we try our level best, we can find out a number of ways to reach the students for distance education.
Right.
But we have to wait for some time actually. Immediately COVID-19 suddenly came, and so it is difficult to face or overcome the problem. But I think COVID-19 taught us a very good lesson that we should be prepared and make the part of online learning as our teaching part.
Right, sir. That's very correct. That's very correct. So, yeah, you say that online learning should be a part of normal, regular, day-to-day schools, and that, for getting out and reaching out to the right students, and for getting out and reaching out to your students that have been a part of night school gets difficult to trace, right?
One more thing, instead of should I say, online teaching must be the integral part of our day-to-day regular teaching. Because during vacation on Sundays, Saturdays, when there are holidays, we can connect the students through online classes.
Right.
Because for night schools students are getting only 3 hours per day.
Right.
So it is very difficult to complete the syllabus in 3 hours. So if you connect them to online classes on Sundays, vacations, summer vacation, Diwali vacation, so it will be very fine for them.
Right, sir. That's right. That's a very good input, actually. Yeah. Does anyone has any questions for our speakers here today?
One thing that I think actually in India around mm, uh, 320 million Indian children are suffered due to this lockdown situation.
Right.
So actually, platform like this, we should think about the future teaching learning plannings on make innovative ideas to reach the students in the rural areas, particularly in urban areas, city like Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai. It is very not that much difficult to reach them. But in rural areas, in remote villages, it is very difficult. So permanent and initiative ideas should be forward to reach them.
Anurag, this is Don.
Yes.
And my question is to Mrs. Ketkar. I remember, and of course, Mr. Ankush Chaitanya also spoke about this. A few days back, Alan and myself, we discussed about trying to organize a drive, in and around Pune for people to start donating their electronic devices for a bigger cause like education. A lot of people end up buying a lot of expensive electronic devices, and over a period of time don't end up using them, and they're just lying there with them. So Alan and I, we discussed about this, and now that you brought this up, I was just wanting to know a little bit more on this specific campaign that you guys have conducted, and I would like to know a little bit more in terms of where you guys are and where you guys would like to be on this specific concept of distance education. Because I know that you guys are meeting your students on a regular basis.
Yeah, so thanks, Don. Actually, so what we did is basically when we started the online classes, we realized that this entire curriculum has to go uniformly to all the 10th grade students. But a short informal survey we did, and we realized only 60% have smartphones from the 10th grade students that we have. And so actually, it was my daughter who came up with the idea. Why don't you, just ask for second-hand smartphones? Because she's heard me discuss this with the staff and everybody. So we said, okay. I first spoke to the trustees of Masoom, Vidya, who's very actively there, and she go ahead, and then what we did is we have launched so if you go on a site, I will share the link with Anagha. It is a crowdfunding platform called Milap. We've just so there we've been able to raise not much, because we've not really aggressively gone seeking funds, but we've raised some funds there, about 16,000 and through the newspaper coverage that we've been able to raise some 25,000. So the thing is, besides the crowdfunding platform that we've used, the media themselves came ahead and asked us about the initiative, and they ensured that the article goes with the name and number of the person to whom they have to contact back for second-hand phones. So we've ended up getting around approximately 20 phones, including the ones in Nagpur. Nagpur also, we've started a similar campaign, and there also we've got about 4-5 smartphones. So basically what we did is, when we got a call from anybody who would say that I have got, and the only criteria was that the audio has to be very good, and we should be able to download applications like Zoom, whatever. And so whenever we got a call, our admin person ensured that our person went there, checked the piece, and then got it to our and gave it to our coordinators. So that's how we've been functioning so far. We've not been able to match what we require. There is a need, But hopefully we will be able to raise some more money. We've also approached our current donors, and wherever we've not got second-hand phones, we've got money to buy second-hand. But I don't know whether. So we are trying to talk to dealers who can give us at a subsidized rate. So that's somewhere, maybe if somebody has any in this group, can connect us to some people who we can buy it from them, but at a very, very, because our students almost like we need around at least 800 I think smartphones, which includes also some of the students of the 9th standard if we have to include. And for that, it is going to require that kind of efforts. And we don't see any other platform right now, because government has not come up with anything else to ensure that students sitting in the home will have access to online education. So that's the only way. So yeah. Does that answer the question, Don?
Yeah, absolutely.
Madam, this is Alan here. Don, Alan here.
Yeah, Alan.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry for the late joining. I got a question. Is this only limited towards cell phones? Do you think tablets, in a sense, would make sense, which has a 3G SIM that can be put into it, or even a Wi-Fi module based into the tablet? Is that something that you might be interested in?
Alan, absolutely. In fact, we had a meeting with Micromax people to explore the possibility of they giving us tablets and all of that, but they have not yet come back to us. Maybe they are just assessing. But yes, definitely, not just, we are saying smartphone because that's the easiest one to, you generally have a spare one and you don't know what to do, or you give away to your maid or something. So might as well give it to a student who will be able to use it. But yes, having said that, the tablets and yes, we are open to that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this is Don here again. So I was thinking that, so like I mentioned earlier, Alan and I, we were discussing this thing as a possibility. What I was thinking is we could run.
Yeah.
We lost you there, Brian. Lost you there, Don.
Can you guys hear me?
So now we can hear you, Don.
Yeah. So what I was saying is, like I mentioned earlier, I was in conversation with Alit in regards to this. I was thinking that we could run a small social media campaign around this, and build some engagement. Once we start engagement is when things will start to try and take place. But that's what I was wanting to ask.
Yeah, definitely.
Anurag, you can go ahead.
So, ma'am, in the last bit of this webinar, I would just want you to tell us that what are the problems that you need immediate assistance with? What is something that CoWIN can do for you in terms of getting your engagement pieces out, in terms of getting finances, in terms of getting these problems that you've highlighted? What is the immediate need that you want us to cater?
Okay, so post-COVID, what has happened is a lot of our 10th grade students have lost jobs.
Okay.
And that's our primary concern. We are also doing a formal survey to see to what extent the damage has been done in the community. But it looks like almost 40-50%. It's coming to that, almost at the national average, I think, unofficially, which is not yet out from them officially. But yes, that's what we are looking at, and there we are looking to support these students with some micro enterprises setting up their own self-employment. Not everybody, but some of them have come to us saying we would like to start, say, a food stall or something, some service, things, and we want to support them. And some money we've been able to raise through one of our current donors, Global Fund for Children, which will take care of about 10 students 10 to 15 students, but we want to support at least 30 students. And I think there, if people can come in, not just to financially support, but also mentor those students, going ahead. One person can take care of one student, mentor one student till the end, because what happens is, with us, we have limited resources, human resources, and also other resources. So it becomes very difficult to, they have so many problems they face at every stage. We will have organizations that we can connect to, like Bright Future, who are helping us with the basic module of self-employment and entrepreneurship and all of that. But beyond that, when it comes to documentation, when it comes to putting their budgets in place, when they really struggle. So that support there, and financial as well as mentoring support to them, will be really, really a great help, because looking at these entrepreneurs, not only just limited to setting up their own enterprises, but going beyond that, and we're tying up with another organization to see to it that they play a greater role as social leaders in their own community, going beyond, because we're supporting them, and they also came back saying, okay, we would like to do something going beyond. So we have, post-COVID, there are a lot of problems in the community, be it senior citizens problem, be it the senior citizens, single citizens, senior citizens who have nobody to look after, or people who have health issues because of somebody has been positive, and people who have lost their jobs, not necessarily in the Masoom community, outside. So we want them to play that active role beyond just their own self, and they have, some of them who volunteered to do that are being chosen in the first 30. So we want to make leaders out of them. And so I think it'll be really useful if it is a new chapter in Masoom, because we're going beyond what we would have done. We would have just restricted to giving support for setting up their own enterprises, but we've realized that COVID has again taught us that you can't just stop at one and say, no, that's not my problem. There is a old person who is a single person having so many problems in this situation. You can't just leave him like that. You need to be sensitive also to the other requirements, and that's where we are looking at how we can begin with these entrepreneurs. So any kind of mentoring support for them is available. Besides that, of course, funding for us has gone for a toss, because 2 major donors have pulled out, and the schools remain unsupported, almost 22 schools, and that's going to be our agenda in the next, through whatever crowdfunding, whoever individuals want to come ahead and support schools and support. And now it's come down drastically, because we are budgeting only 4-5 months of our intervention, so it's come down drastically. But we don't want to leave them, because we've been supporting them for so many years, and now suddenly if we leave them at this stage, definitely it's going to affect the attendance and the enrollments. So we want to help them, and that's the second part, I would say. And of course, that these are the major things, and the rest of it is always there. We could talk about it, because for the organization, we keep needing support of MIS. We already have got an organization on board who's trying to help us putting things, trying to convert all the paperwork into offline, and make it more online platforms. Like that. So that is again always there. The social marketing bit is like throughout, because we don't have a fundraising person, we don't have a marketing person, we don't have a PR person, we don't do PR. So more than happy to, anybody comes on board is okay.
So I have a lot of pointers here that I can help you with now.
Yeah.
So, ma'am, one last question, like, do you have any mechanism or anything that is in place for keeping a check on your faculty? How is the faculty doing? Are they doing good? What is their mental state of mind? What is their scene? I'm sure they are having challenges with the salaries as well. So is there anything in place that you have in touch to keep all of them on the same page?
No, unfortunately no. But if you have something, please let me know, because
yes, ma'am, I do.
Yeah, please do. We can touch base offline, definitely, because that's something which keeps. Because unfortunately, we've not been. We have an HR, but it is, we've not been investing much. High fund. We have limited salaries, and we have limited talents, and the capability of transforming and coming up with those major, it need not have financial, it's not that everything needs to have resources, financial.
Right.
Sometimes it's just the strategy. But because like I'm into operations and so much into basic things, getting food, roti kapda makan in place, these are things which always have taken a backseat. So more than happy to have an offline.
That'll be something that I would love to help you with, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I have one question, Sanura.
Yes, Anagha ma'am, please.
Yeah. Nikita ma'am, you just didn't mention about the volunteering. If anyone wanted to volunteer in your organization for teaching to the students, so how they can approach to you, or if we wanted to know that they wanted specifically they wanted to engage with one activity with Masoom, so how they can connect to you?
So right now we have this mentorship for entrepreneurs. You have Yuvraj is the person. He manages the career cell. Vishwajit can send the number. Vishwajit, on the chat itself you can send. He is managing the entire entrepreneurship program for us. So mentors for our students who are while they're getting shortlisted, also we need support in terms of who we can shortlist, how we can shortlist, whether. So more than happy to have them on board.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Also, if I may add a few things to it, it's like we have listed many opportunities which are available with Masoom on our website under the Get Involved tab. So anyone who wishes to volunteer even later, they can always come on our website and they can register, and our team will get back to them.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, Vishwajit.
I have one question to add. My mother is also a teacher. My mother also teaches in a school, and she teaches maths and science. Now the problem that is also happening is now in a school, like this is a normal regular school, parents are still having a problem in staying and paying up. So, most of their salaries have been 50% bumped, and it's really a very challenging situation.
Yes.
How do you think we can address this, or at least try to make a change in this, ma'am? How do we convince parents to give it that much importance that it deserves?
By paying fees, you mean, Anurag?
By paying fees, yeah. Education is an important thing, so
Yeah. So yesterday only I was having a conversation. So it's very strange, like there's this Jagdari sir was mentioning about this organization in Bangalore, and provide these online classes, and every class it goes on for 2 hours, and it's an excellent organization providing this. So the parents and well-off parents have to pay 500 rupees per session. But the kind of uproar I'm seeing, and I've just been talking because a lot of peer sessions are going on just to see what's happening, and I realized that kind of sharing that she was doing, so many parents not wanting to give that, but not seeing the value add. And this is with the challenged students. I'm not talking about regular students. They are doing with the disabled
students. Yeah.
So it takes a lot of you need that kind of to do online with these students. It is not easy, and parents cribbing about this 500 rupees per session. I don't know. It's about, so somewhere you have to prioritize, because if you see, lockdown has given an opportunity to save anyway. You're not doing, economy is anyway gone for a toss because you're purchasing, you're not, so why not invest? And that is how they have to look into it.
Right.
And you can't ask for subsidies everywhere, and then how will the institution run? Because they also have to have teachers, they also have to run the program.
Right. It's a challenging situation, but I'm sure that if we've come so far, we'll definitely come to a way very soon. And I just hope that everything just resumes and we can like we've lived before. Definitely, COVID has taught everyone so much personally at an integral level. Like doing everyday things in life, everything has changed over the past 4 months. So if it has changed so far, then another few months of change will also make it better, is what I feel.
Yes,
yes, it is absolutely right.
Yeah. So, sir, looking at the positive future, I would like to get this webinar of ours to the final stop. And we have worked on a very intricate on a piece of engagement. So for whoever has joined the webinar today, we'll be sending you out a piece of engagement. Please have 2 minutes of your time and fill that form up for us. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a real pleasure to host you all, and I'm really glad that Covin could do something like this. And ma'am, we have a lot that we have to talk to you about. And
Yes. I'm also looking forward. I'm really thankful to your team for having called us here. It was great sharing about our program. Thank you very much.
yeah.